We spent $327 for electricity. That's crazy.
All right, so I just got my electric bill, and I'm pretty sure it was written by a supervillain. I'm seeing numbers that look more like a car payment, and I'm not the only one. Apparently, there's a silent war being waged on our wallets, and the weapon of choice is the System Access Deferral Surcharge. Yeah, I don't know what that means either.
Our bill was $370.59, right? What the fudge is all this?
Okay, stop. What the fudge is all this is the most relatable thing I've ever heard. Let's look at these charges. Power plant securitization? It sounds like they're charging you to make sure the power plant doesn't get repossessed. IRM surcharge? FCM incentive? Are these charges, or did someone just spill a bowl of alphabet soup on the bill? Other surcharges? That's my favorite. That's the because we felt like it fee.
A power plant? Other surcharges?
This is crazy. I don't know how people are going to survive this.
It's going up to 11% now. 11%. Almost 88,000 people with electric has been shut off due to this.
If you live in Augusta, just your power...
Wait, so you're telling me my electricity bill is going up because ChatGPT needs to figure out another 100 ways to write a poem about a sad cat in the style of Shakespeare? AI data centers are causing my bill to have a panic attack? I use AI to make funny pictures of my dog, not to fund its secret plan to take over the world by bankrupting me 1 kilowatt at a time.
Your bill looked like a car note last month because it's not some of us, it's all of us.
Your electricity bill went up 30% last year, and it's not just inflation. AI data centers caused $9.3 billion in increased costs. You're literally paying for big tech's electricity. These data centers are popping up everywhere.
She's right, you know. They're popping up everywhere. And look at where they're building them. Arizona, Texas, Nevada, in the desert. You know, the one place on Earth famous for being cool and wet. It's a genius plan. What could possibly go wrong with putting a giant, heat-generating superbrain in the middle of an oven?
They're being built in almost every state. Virginia has over 600 data centers. It is the data center capital of the world. There's probably a data center closer to you than you realize, and more are being built every day. But here's what made me suspicious. If these companies are worth trillions of dollars, then why do politicians celebrate them like they won the lottery? I found the answer in tax documents. Data centers aren't just being built with big tech's money, they're being built with the help of your tax dollars. In November of last year, it was discovered that Laidley LLC...
Hold up, Project Sucra and Project Blue? This sounds less like city planning and more like a rejected plot from a Jason Bourne movie. They're using secret shell companies with code names to get billion-dollar tax breaks. And did you catch that math? Meta claims 500 permanent jobs, but similar projects only created like 50. In Louisiana, they got $1 billion tax break. That's $20 million per job created. For that price, you could give each of those 50 people $1 million and still have enough left over to buy a solid gold yacht.
A newly created Delaware shell company applied for a 401 water quality certification for a proposed project by the name of Project Sucra. Laidley LLC turned out to be none other than Meta.
We just announced that we were building a 2 gigawatt plus data center in Louisiana that we're gonna use to train future versions of Llama. We were in this for the long term, and we are committed to building the most advanced AI in the world.
Meta is now building a $10 billion facility in Louisiana. This thing is massive at 2,250 acres. That's bigger than 1,700 American football fields. The state gave them tax breaks so massive, they keep the exact amount confidential, but we know it was upwards of $1 billion. Meta claims this will create 500 permanent jobs, but we know based on previously built data centers that the real number is somewhere around 50 jobs. That's $20 million in tax breaks per job created. $20 million.
Well, whether it's 500 jobs, I'll take it.
Did he just compare a Meta data center to the founding of Christianity? I am speechless. Jesus turned water into wine. This data center turns water into higher electric bills. Slightly different miracles, my friend. But hey, I guess 5 jobs in his area is a big deal. Aim high, Louisiana.
Here, 5 jobs in this area was a big thing before this came here. In Louisiana, we'll take every job that we can. When you add the 500 jobs plus the 5,000 construction jobs, it starts to build out. Remember, Jesus started with 12, and look how big his church is.
But let's look at some of these jobs the governor is referring to. Data center design, engineering, and construction, remote. Capacity planning director, remote. Principal energy strategy, remote. All of these high-paying jobs are for remote workers, and we know the bulk of job creation comes from the development of the data center. But even then, it may not be done by local crews. So what are the jobs being left to the locals? Security guard. But even security guards are increasingly being replaced by AI-powered security cameras.
Okay, so get this. The official group in charge of making sure the lights stay on has just announced that the grid is, and I quote, alarmingly unreliable. You don't say! It's almost like plugging 1,000 giant power-hungry robot brains into a system designed in the 1970s might cause a few problems. Who could have possibly seen that coming? But don't worry, I'm sure they'll fix it by adding another surcharge to our bills. Maybe a grid is trying its best fee.
Remember when your power went out last summer? Here's why. The North American Electric Reliability Corporation, the regulatory authority that monitors the entire U.S. continental power grid, including parts of Canada and Mexico, issued a warning. Our grid is becoming alarmingly unreliable. This isn't some local utility company. This is the federal authority responsible for ensuring that power companies from coast to coast keep the lights on. And the costs are exploding. PJM, the organization that coordinates wholesale electricity for 67 million Americans, just held their annual auction. The price tag, $16.1 billion. That's up from $2.2 billion from just 2 years ago. A 700% increase. PJM claims it's a relatively small part of your electric bill, but that's easy for them to say when they're not the ones footing the bill.
Demand for power is growing at a pace I have not seen in my 45-year energy career. This was reinforced just last week with PJM capacity prices clearing above the $325 per megawatt day price cap, as we continue to see the need for capacity and energy.
And here are the real victims in all this. Us, the regular people. Look at their faces. That's the universal expression of someone opening their power bill and trying to figure out if they accidentally powered a small moon for a month. This guy says his bill looks like a car note. My car note wishes it was that low. At this rate, my electric bill is going to apply for its own credit card and start building a bad credit history.
Materially rise. With AEP's generation requirements increasing to support capacity, this gives us confidence in our growing capital plan.
This increase is largely due to new data centers and other industrial customers coming online in Indiana, Ohio, and Texas, resulting in a roughly $200 million year-over-year increase in revenues.
They're now starting to upgrade the power grid, but not for us, for the data centers, and they're passing the cost on to us. In just the first half of 2025, energy companies across the US got approved for $29 billion in rate increases, a staggering 142% increase from the same time last year. Florida Power and Light alone wants $9.8 billion more over 4 years.
Not Georgia Power pulling up to change the meter because everybody's light bill's been abnormally high and she out there changing the meter. I've been calling them for months. They just changed this meter over here and told me that everybody had been complaining about their...
Oh, it gets better. It turns out some public officials in Oregon saw this big tech money train coming and decided to, stand on the tracks with a giant butterfly net. They basically used a nonprofit to get a sweet deal on a fiber optic company and then profited when Amazon rolled into town. And for this genius move of public service, they were fined $2,000 each. That's not a fine. That's what a tech exec spends on avocado toast in 1 week. Crime literally pays as long as it's corporate.
Electrical bill being super high, $700, $1,200. I called Georgia Power months ago. I let them know it's abnormally high. It's only 2 people in here. My light bill should not be $600, $700, $800. That's absolutely ridiculous. And they were saying it goes based on your usage. It goes based on my daily usage. I understand that, but it's only 2 people in here. I only have a 2-bedroom townhouse.
So let me get this straight. The current power grid is under stress. It has rolling blackouts across the US. It can't support our current needs. Yet we're going to pay billions of dollars so that data centers can use even more electricity. Look at where they're building these things. Arizona, Texas, Nevada, some of the driest states in America.
Data centers are a 24/7 operation. They have to keep the servers cool, and that takes a lot of power, a lot of air conditioning to do so.
Do we have the resources? Do we have the electric capacity, the water capacity to continue to grow this business in Arizona? Is it sustainable?
Not at the moment.
They're putting the thirstiest buildings in the country in the desert. It doesn't seem logical, right? Well, Well, it's because it is in fact the desert. Corporations can buy massive plots of land at low cost and receive big tax breaks from local officials. Electricity is cheaper, there's less regulation, fewer natural disasters like hurricanes, and there's proximity to California. San Antonio's 2 data centers drank 463 million gallons of water in the last 2 years alone. Meanwhile, the city has been in a drought. Residents could only water lawns once a week. A paper submitted to the Texas Water Development Board projected that data centers in the state will consume 49 billion gallons of water in 2025. That number is expected to rise to 399 billion gallons of water by 2030. But what happened in Tucson shows just how far they'll go. City officials in Tucson signed a non-disclosure agreement for a vague project referred to as Project Blue. City officials serving the public, but hiding what's going on in their city. A document about the development of Project Blue was obtained through public records. The company behind Project Blue? None other.
So we've got skyrocketing bills, a failing power grid, and shady backroom deals. What else could go wrong? Oh, right, an environmental crime scene. Elon Musk's AI company is just burning methane in the middle of Memphis with no permits. And look at the water. That's not water, that's a science experiment. The residents are getting artisanal, earth-filtered water straight from the data center runoff. It comes with extra sediment for flavor. And what about the constant noise? I bet they tell the residents it's just the sound of progress, or the sound of their property values tanking.
Other than Amazon. They wanted 290 acres to build 3 massive buildings. And the worst part, they wanted to use drinking water to cool the data center in Arizona, in the middle of a drought. However, the people fought back, and the city council voted unanimously no.
Aye. Item passes. Thank you all.
But Amazon won't give up. They will just go to the next town over, and the next, and the next, until someone says yes. And this is happening everywhere. In Wyoming, there's a massive data center being built that will use 5 times more power than all humans in the entire state. Let me say that part again. 5 times more electricity than every home, every business, every person in Wyoming combined. It could consume twice as much electricity as the entire state currently produces, and yet no one knows who's using it. The development company Crusoe will not confirm nor deny if it is part of OpenAI's Stargate project, but we know that Crusoe is behind the development of OpenAI's Texas data center. Virginia gave away $730 million in tax exemptions to data centers last year. Which companies got the money?
Okay, let me get this straight. Big tech companies worth trillions are getting billions in tax breaks from our local governments to build these massive energy-sucking data centers. These data centers then strain our already alarmingly unreliable power grid and pollute our communities. The utility companies, in turn, raise our rates by 700% to pay for the upgrades needed to power the data centers that we gave the tax breaks to in the first place. And the politicians who approve all this, they get millions in campaign donations. It's not a conspiracy, it's just business as usual, I guess.
I won't tell you, the state handed out $750 million with zero transparency. The worst part, Virginia generated 48 cents in new state revenue for every dollar it did not collect in sales tax. Meaning for every tax dollar that Virginia gives to these major corporations, they lose 52 cents per dollar. But if these multi-billion-dollar companies are receiving all of these tax exemptions, who do we think is going to make up the difference for this 52 cents? Virginians. They're going to pass on the tax burden to the locals to make up on this tax budget. What Virginia did is technically legal, but what I found in Oregon is criminal. 4 Murrow County officials got caught red-handed. They voted to give Amazon massive tax breaks. What Amazon did or didn't know was that officials owned 20% stakes in Windwave Communications, a fiber company that, surprise, surprise, was contracted with Amazon to lay fiber for Amazon's data center. These local officials who are supposed to be voting in favor of the public voted in favor of enriching themselves. Now, they were fined $2,000 per person. $2,000.
Georgia legislators are getting soaked with money from Georgia Power. We're saying
conflict of interest?
Absolutely. It is clearly corrupting. This is the highest paid utility CEOs in the country. Why is the poorest region of the country paying the most to our CEOs?
$23 million, $33 million.
It's ridiculous how much money they make.
But the corruption goes deeper. Massive corporations are spending millions on lobbyists, the people who go around whispering in politicians' ears, attempting to get them to create policy changes that benefit tech billionaires. Meta, Google, Microsoft, TikTok, X, and Snapchat spent $61.5 million on lobbying. They employed 300 lobbyists. That's one lobbyist for every 2 members of Congress. Imagine someone's job is going around and trying to convince your representative that major corporations need more tax breaks, and that $61.5 million, that's just what they have to report. $1.9 billion in dark money flowed through the 2024 election, untraceable, anonymous. And that's just what researchers could identify. The real number is likely higher. So when your local politician all of a sudden supports a data center that nobody wanted, when tax breaks appear out of nowhere, when your governor says data centers are vital for economic growth, check their campaign finances for big tech's fingerprint. But the sickest part, this corruption has a body count. This is xAI's Colossus data center in Memphis, the largest AI cluster in the world. Elon Musk's AI project powering Grok. To meet its massive energy demands, xAI installed 35 methane gas turbines.
We went to Memphis and found an environmental crime scene. Musk's data center burning enough methane to power a small city with no permits and no pollution controls.
I have not seen anything like this. We believe they've already violated the Clean Air Act.
And it's not just Memphis. UC Riverside and Caltech researchers found that data centers nationwide have created a staggering $5.4 billion in public health costs.
There's no sleeping for anybody in the area at night. This noise turns 24/7. So you're pretty sleep deprived. People have headaches, migraines, dizziness. You don't spend any time outside unless you absolutely have to.
This is our cold water pressure in the kitchen.
So you can see the sediment from the data center. Wow, and that's just from the water coming out of your faucet.
Yeah. And this is what's in all the pipes.
People are complaining about constant noise, chemical smells, and worsening asthma. And while they keep breathing in these fumes, their electricity bill is on the rise. Memphis electricity rates went up 4% in 2024, another 4% approved for 2025, and another 4% planned for 2026. And it will only get worse as the development of a second Colossus data center is already underway. And in Abilene, Texas, where OpenAI is building their $15 billion Stargate project, local officials gave an 85% property tax break. Regular Texans pay an average of 1.81% every year, no exceptions. Between 2019 and 2024, property taxes increased nearly 30% nationwide. The median American now pays $250 a month just in property taxes.
I mean, my electric bill hasn't been under $200 in months. I can't even remember. And now it's property tax time in Connecticut. Our property tax for our home went up $1,000, $1,080 to be exact. I don't understand it. And that's on top of the vehicle property taxes that we have to pay.
The data center will create supposedly 357 jobs. Yet, just as we saw with Meta, there's no requirement that those jobs are local. Data center security technical lead, remote. Enterprise security engineer, remote. Security engineer, cloud security, remote. Not even one of the jobs listed on LinkedIn is for Abilene, Texas. Even if all of the 357 jobs were local, that's still a tiny fraction of jobs compared to the billions in investments and the massive amounts of tax breaks. Some of these tax breaks have a 10-year window, but the company could go under in 10 years and then the state would never recoup its money. That lost revenue has to be made up. Either schools get less funding, your roads don't get fixed, or, and this is usually what happens, your taxes go up to pay the difference. When local officials celebrate landing a data center with massive tax breaks, what they're really saying is, we increased your taxes to subsidize a $1 trillion company. By 2030, data centers will use triple what they use now. Your bill isn't going back down, it's going to double. Water consumption is up 170%, all during a drought crisis. And those AI jobs they're supposedly creating, the government just revised May's job numbers from 144,000 to 19,000. June, from 147,000 to 14,000. They take our tax money to build their data centers to train their AIs that they're hoping will replace us as workers. We're effectively funding our own replacement. Tucson said no to Amazon. Communities are organizing and demanding transparency. Some states are finally proposing laws to protect ratepayers. The powerful only win when we don't pay attention, when we don't know what's happening. They're counting on us not caring, not understanding, not fighting back. But we can prove them wrong.
But hey, here's the good news. People are fighting back. Communities are organizing and saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't let trillion-dollar companies turn our towns into their personal server farms while we foot the bill. And sometimes they even win. So maybe there's hope. In the meantime, I'm going to go light some candles. Not for the ambiance, but because I'm genuinely afraid to turn on my lights. Let me know in the comments how much your AI overlords are charging you for electricity this month. Stay safe and maybe invest in a good generator. It looks like we're all going to need one. So to recap, our electric bills are exploding to power AI data centers that are being built in the desert with our tax dollars thanks to some shady backroom deals. The power grid is about to collapse, our water is getting dirty, and the companies behind it all are making record profits while getting massive tax breaks. But hey, at least AI can now write a perfect email to your boss explaining why you're too tired to come to work from the constant humming noise of the data center next door. It's the circle of life. What's the craziest charge you've seen on your utility bill? Drop it in the comments. And for the love of all that is holy, turn off your lights when you leave a room. Apparently, Mark Zuckerberg needs the power.